Hey YouTube, welcome back to TCGMetalZ, and today we're going to actually have a video about One Piece. There's a lot of stuff kind of swirling around, and I've been trying to figure out exactly how I want to do One Piece content myself, simply because, you know, there is a essentially OCG, TCG kind of vibe, you know, what the Yu-Gi-Oh used to have. The overseas in Asia, they already have cards, they're going into set 2, whereas we won't even get set 1 over here in the States, Europe, everywhere else until, you know, like early December. So because of that, you have this weird space where if you report on what we have globally, you're technically reporting on old content. But if you report on what Asia is getting, you're technically talking about things that we're not going to see for 3-4 months. And so that can kind of really get precarious. But I do have a topic today that I want to talk about because I do think that just different play styles and trends will influence what we do here versus what's going on over there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, I just want to talk to you guys real quick about the contest we're doing for One Piece still. So I do want to say that we still are running a contest. I'll leave the link in the description. It's free to enter. There is like another, it's basically raffle based, but you can get up to 20 tickets. 8 of them require just like subscribing to the Twitch channel, but the other 12 of them are free, and we're drawing the raffle mid-December. And in this contest, we're giving away starter decks, the super pre-release starter decks. I know lots of people have been looking for these. They're hard to find, but I have one of each thrown into this giveaway. We have things like the leaders themselves going away for this giveaway. We have stuff like promo packs. I'm gonna get another one of these, so I'll just throw these in, might as well. There's gonna be 2 of them. We have 2 different sets of super pre-release Dawn. We have Crocodile sleeves. We also have Dawn sleeves. We have one of the promo Luffy's from the super pre-release. We just have a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, you can just go over to the video to look at all the details, and that should be fine. So without further ado, let's just hop into the content. Yeah. So, as to be expected, once we get set 1, Romance Dawn, we're gonna start seeing a lot of cards just strengthen every single color. Currently, if you guys have been looking at the deck limited battles or playing in them yourselves, you understand that there are 4 colors, but 2 of them stand head and shoulders above the other ones, and that would be purple and blue. The main reason for this is that purple and blue have either hard or soft removal that's going to allow you to pick upon your opponent's board. And in this game where you have summoning sickness, putting something back to hand just means that they casted it, did not get a chance to push for damage, and then it got bounced. So, or killed. So this puts you in a position where you're essentially time walking yourself. You are losing turns due to your opponent's cards that come out, provide bodies, and bounce or kill. Now, currently the shortcomings of the other colors is that our green can provide quite a lot of damage, quite a lot of defense, but it requires setup. And when you have green cards coming into the board and not immediately impacting it, like they're not bouncing stuff, they're not blowing up stuff, they're not rushing. They have to hit the board, they have to stay there for a turn, and then they can do their best work. It makes it easy prey for blue and purple. Then you go over to red, which is supposed to be the aggression color, but there simply aren't enough cards with rush to justify it being that way. The deck is very inconsistent because at the starter deck level, there's not a lot of search, and the decks only have 2 good rush cards and 1 extremely overcosted one. So, when you look at this, it becomes a very big issue about how you make these aggro decks work. Now, coming into Romance Dawn, every color gets a lot. I would say that the biggest winner of the support that comes from Romance Dawn is red. Red gains so many more cards that become like aggro tools. They gain search on 2 different cards, they gain aggro, they gain more rush, and so red becomes a viable force in the format. On top of that, green also gains a lot more utility in the tapping and untapping of resources. They gain more search, and on top of that, you have hybrid leaders like Law that can use the best of both worlds, the aggression of red as well as the utility and, you know, all sorts of tricks of green. When it comes to purple, purple does get more destruction. Purple does get more. Purple gets a board wipe. Purple gets a king that destroys 2 different weenies. purple gets a lot. And then you have blue. Blue is going to receive more of the same. Blue is still going to be kind of that bouncy tempo, but you even gain a Crocodile leader that's both blue and purple, allowing you to fuse some small removal draw along with your blue outs for making sure that your opponent's board never gets out of hand. So what this has made in Japan is a meta where you are for the most part seeing red for its aggression, red green for its aggression and utility, or green for its straight up utility. And it becomes a very, very, very interesting heft of the meta. Now, outside of this green red and green red, you have purple, and purple naturally does check some of these, and I'll go into that in a second. And then in the very, very small minority, you have blue. And I don't mean to hate on that, it's just like, it is what it is. You can go to these sites, you can look at the decks that are topping. Blue has the least representation in top cut. Red, green, and red-green have very, very high amounts. And then purple is definitely a lot more than blue, but not nearly as much as the other ones. And the reason for this, though, is that red is going to be able to take its space as an aggro deck finally. But this also means that red is going to be able to get underneath everybody's stabilizations. Those first turns, we are not doing diddly squat. Red is starting to put in work, swinging and automatically being like, you block this or you take a life, pretty much. And then you're going over to green, and green is going to be essentially the blue of Dragon Ball Super. Green is not using the same amount of resources that everybody else is. Green, if you have your deck built correctly, is going to be untapping Dawn. It's going to be untapping cards that have already swung. Green is going to be pushing all of its resources that extra mile through its effects, but it requires board setup. And then the red-green, for the sake of having, one less life for law, you're going to be able to fill up your board and then start tagging your cards out. You're going to have the effectiveness of untapping Dawn and battle cards, characters with green, but you're going to have so many of these rush targets and these like very aggressive, meaty character cards with red. Now, where purple fits into this is kind of like on a knife's edge. Purple has the destruction, and so when you're filling up your boards of weenies with law, purple can 7-drop a king and destroy a 3-drop and destroy a 2-drop. And you just went from about to be able to use your leader's auto or your leader's activate main next turn to needing to play 3 battle cards just for it to work. So I keep saying battle cards, I'm so sorry. This is kind of where the hard stuff gets in. Purple is going to be able to really mess up the board states that need to accumulate to make red, green, and red-green viable. However, purple is still a mid-range to late game deck, and so if these red decks perform optimally, they will start putting too much pressure on the purple deck to stabilize. So you're really running that odd kind of position. Purple can do very well against law, purple can do very well against green, purple can get blitzed very hard versus red, and you're sitting on these points where you really have to decide what your meta is and if you're willing to take that gamble. Now when it comes to blue still has a lot of its stopping power that it currently has, but the main issue about blue, in my opinion, is that blue has a lot of bounces, and when red starts getting more and more rush cards, these bounces are less and less effective. It's just to the point where you're bouncing these cards just for them to come down and swing on your face again, and you're not really stunning them every single turn. So when we get to this, this is the way the meta is setting up. Now, going over to the TCG, right? We are now sitting here and wondering, how is this going to affect us? Because you could look at this and think that, okay, we're going to just copy pasta this entire format over and roll from there. But that's not always the case. Sometimes the region very much so has an effect on the cards played. Europe and America for, Dragon Ball Super have had the same cards for quite some time. Did not stop our nationals invites, our national list from looking very, very different. Where our nationals was overridden with Icarus, and their nationals had weird decks that we would never even consider viable or take to nationals. And I think that you're gonna see some of that here even. Right now, purple and blue are so heavily represented. I think that that's going to affect the meta. Like, law is already anticipated to be the best deck, if not close to it, once Romance Dawn comes out. However, when Romance Dawn comes out and we start playing this Law format, you have so many people here who swear by Kaido, who love Kaido, and who love Crocodile. And these decks are going to be able to break the board states that Law needs to start abusing his leader effect. So the people that can take their Kaido decks and take their Crocodile decks, or switch Crocodile to Doflamingo, or switch Crocodile to dual color Crocodile and still keep playing, you're going to see a lot of these people transitioning to these mid-range decks with more power in exchange for not having to play what they feel like is the obvious bandwagon deck. Now, there has been a lot of people that have been upset that a card or a leader like Luffy isn't as viable as it could be, and that's fair. I think that a lot of people will be able to sit here and pick up Luffy and Zoro, myself included, because I love Zoro. Zoro and Kaido are my favorite characters right now. I think that I would be happy to pick up Zoro and build a red deck. And these red decks are going to get very much so underneath the stabilization of blue and purple. I do think that over time, we are still going to have these 4 archetypes in here. I think in the TCG, green, mono green will probably be the least popular out of these 4. That's just me personally trying to put a prediction out there. I think that purple and blue are still going to be mainstays in the TCG because they are already popular and people like the playstyles already, and people tend to not like jumping ship. It just happens. Law is the obvious bandwagon deck, but in a format where lots of people are not just playing Luffy because he's Luffy. I'm not going to say that that's the reason for it, but there are a lot of people who want to play the flagship character in Japan. They see Luffy, they're like, I'm playing that no matter what. Or Zoro, I'm playing him no matter what because he's a Straw Hat. However, a lot of people here aren't going to jump ship just because of Luffy power. And if that's the case, you're going to have a lot of Kaidos, a lot of Crocodiles or Dofis, and those people are going to be able to really, really hamper Green's board setup that's needed to untap all these characters and swing again. And they're going to be the same people that mess with Law's board state too hard for Law to stabilize the way it needs to and become the well-oiled machine that it is. So with that being said, I do think that in the TCG, we're going to see an influx of red because red is now able to do its thing. You're going to see a lot of Law because Law is the bandwagon deck and very powerful in its own right. And you're going to see a lot of blue and a lot of Kaido as purple because those are already the top dogs in the format. I think Kid will be fairly rogue, and that will just be because green right now is seen as not the weakest of the 4 colors, but definitely not like as popular. Even when it comes to the colors, Luffy's only not played as much because Luffy sucks. Like, people love Luffy, people like the character. I do think that this is going to start shifting. Now, once we start getting black, I think that's a whole nother conversation. We can go into that later. Probably won't want to do it until we see what the TCG or like meta breakdown becomes. But I do think that right now we are in a position where we're going to still see blue. Blue is going to be the main factor. Blue, I think, is going to have the representation that green, mono green, has in the OCG for the TCG. It's got that rolling stone momentum. So yeah, this is a discussion piece. This is the first dedicated One Piece video I've done in a while, and I just wanted you guys to see how that is going to flow. I really do like discussing these future changes, and I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know in the comments what you guys think will happen once we start getting the cards in our hands in the TCG and how we start seeing tournaments, and I'll be very interested to do follow-up videos to see if this is how it turns out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to check out the contest, and if you want to support the channel, just go down there and press that subscribe button, like the video, comment, and we will see you next time, Universe X.